You know what they don't tell you in xenobiology school? That saving alien babies will completely ruin your life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Maya Rodriguez, and I used to be a perfectly normal, antisocial scientist. Keywords being used to be. These days I spend my time being worshipped by a pack of 8-foot-tall alien warriors who think I'm some kind of chosen savior. Spoiler alert, I'm not. It all started on research station Kepler 442 billion, which is basically the universe's way of saying congratulations, but you've been exiled to the armpit of space. I was there cataloging what the Bureau optimistically called harmless local fauna. Translation: weird space animals that probably wanted to eat me but were too small to succeed. The morning everything went sideways. I was knee-deep in a methane swamp, trying to get a decent photograph of what looked like a cross between a butterfly and a very disappointed chicken. The smell alone could strip paint, but hey, that's science for you. That's when I heard the splashing. Now I want to be clear about something. I am not a hero. I don't rescue cats from trees. I don't help old ladies cross the street. I once walked past a guy who dropped his wallet because I was late for a coffee appointment, but with myself. But there was something thrashing around in the deeper part of the swamp, and it sounded small, helpless, like a baby. "This is stupid," I muttered, setting down my camera. "This is monumentally, catastrophically stupid." The thing was about 50 meters out, going under and coming back up with increasingly weak movements. It looked like a furry blue basketball with tiny arms, and it was clearly drowning in liquid methane. Which, fun fact, is exactly as toxic as it sounds. I grabbed my emergency rebreather and waded in. The methane was cold enough to flash freeze my common sense, which probably explains what happened next. "Come on, you weird little alien potato," I grunted, reaching for the creature. "Don't make me look stupid for trying to save you." The thing latched onto my arm with surprising strength. Up close, I could see it had large, intelligent eyes and what looked like tiny fangs. Definitely not a butterfly chicken. I dragged us both back to shore, where the creature immediately started making a sound like a broken air conditioner. I figured that was either "thank you" or "you taste terrible and I'm planning to eat you later." "You're welcome," I told it, wringing methane out of my field suit. "Try not to fall into any more swamps. Natural selection has a way of working these things out." The creature looked up at me with those big eyes and made a different sound, almost like it was trying to talk. "Yeah, well, don't get attached," I said. "I'm not exactly the nurturing type." That's when I heard the rumbling. At first, I thought it was thunder. Then I realized thunder doesn't usually come with the sound of heavy footsteps and what sounded like a war chant in a language that consisted entirely of growling. The creatures that emerged from the tree line were not butterfly chickens. They were 8 feet tall, covered in blue-black fur, and built like they bench-pressed starships for fun. Each one carried weapons that looked like they could level a small city. Their eyes glowed amber in the dim light, and when they saw me holding their apparently very important baby, they all stopped and stared. "Oh," I said, looking down at the little creature in my arms. "You're not a butterfly chicken at all, are you?" The baby made that broken air conditioner sound again, and I realized with growing horror that I'd just rescued a juvenile member of what had to be the most intimidating species I'd ever encountered. "So," I said to the assembled wall of alien muscle, "I don't suppose you folks are vegetarians?" The big one in front stepped forward. And by big, I mean he made the others look like they were on a diet. His fur had silver streaks, and he wore what looked like a ceremonial collar made of bones. Probably not vegetarian bones. "I am Groknar the Mighty," he said in accented standard. His voice sounded like gravel falling down a mine shaft. "You have saved the life of Pip, offspring of my blood sister." Pip. The terrifying alien baby was named Pip. "Well," I said, still holding said baby, "it seemed like the neighborly thing to do." Groknar tilted his massive head. "You risk your life for unknown offspring. This is the act of a true pack leader." "Oh no," I said quickly. No, I'm not a pack leader. I'm barely a functioning adult. I once forgot to eat for 3 days because I was reading a particularly interesting research paper. But Groknar wasn't listening. He was doing something that looked like kneeling, except more terrifying. The other aliens followed suit. "We recognize you as Alpha," Groknar declared. "Back mother of the fallen Sky clan." "That's really not necessary," I said. But Pip chose that moment to make happy chirping sounds and nuzzle against my chest. The assembled warriors made approving rumbles. That's when Commander Jake Sterling arrived with Dr. Eliza Winters, our resident xenoanthropologist. Jake looked like he'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy, which was his default expression. Eliza looked like Christmas morning and her birthday had collided in the best possible way. "Maya," Jake said carefully, "why are you being worshipped by 8-foot-tall predators?" "Funny story," I said. "Apparently I'm their pack leader now." "Oh my God," Eliza whispered, pulling out her recording device. "This is incredible. Maya, you've just witnessed a spontaneous adoption ceremony of the Vorthak warrior class. Do you realize how unprecedented this is?" "I realize I'd like to not be eaten," I replied. "Can we work on that?" Groknar stood up, which was like watching a mountain decide to relocate. "The Alpha Mother comes with us. Pack bond is sacred." "See, that's going to be a problem," Jake said, stepping forward with his hands raised diplomatically. "Maya is a human citizen, and she has responsibilities to her own pack." "She saved Pip," Groknar said simply. "She is pack now." "Right, but there might be some cultural misunderstanding here," Jake continued. "In human culture, we often help others without expecting to join their families." The Vorthak looked confused. One of them, slightly smaller than Groknar but twice as scarred, spoke up. "Why would you risk death for non-pack?" "Because," Jake said, then paused. "Because humans are weird," I finished. "Look, Groknar, I appreciate the honor, but I have a job to do here. Research. Science. Very boring stuff that definitely doesn't require pack leadership skills." "Science is good," Groknar agreed. "You will teach pack offspring the ways of smart thinking. Very useful for hunting." "I don't think you understand," Eliza said excitedly. "Maya, this is a cultural opportunity of a lifetime. The Vorthak have never accepted an outsider into their pack structure. You could be the first human to truly understand their society from the inside. I could also be the first human to be torn apart by alien warriors when I inevitably disappoint them," I pointed out. Pip made another chirping sound and settled more comfortably in my arms. Every Vorthak in sight made that approving rumble again. "The young one has chosen," Groknar said with finality. "Pack decision is made." Jake tried negotiating for the next hour. He offered cultural exchanges, trade agreements, and even threw in a case of Earth whiskey. The Vorthak were polite but immovable. As far as they were concerned, I had proven myself worthy of leadership by saving their young, and that was that. "This is insane," I muttered, watching Jake's increasingly desperate diplomatic maneuvers. "This is fascinating," Eliza corrected. "Maya, you're living anthropological history. Think of the research possibilities." "I'm thinking of the mortality possibilities," I said. "What happens when they figure out I have no idea how to be a pack leader?" "Well," Eliza said thoughtfully, "traditionally, failed Vorthak leaders are ceremonially stripped of their position." "That doesn't sound so bad." "By being torn apart by the pack they failed." And there it is. As the sun set over Kepler 442 billion, I found myself walking back to the research station with an honor guard of alien warriors and a baby Vorthak who had apparently decided I was the best thing since sliced bread. Or whatever the Vorthak equivalent of sliced bread was. Probably sliced enemies. Jake was on his communicator, probably explaining to his superiors how one of his scientists had accidentally become the leader of an alien warrior pack. Eliza was taking notes so fast her stylus was smoking. And me? Me? I was trying to figure out how to explain to a pack of carnivorous aliens that my leadership qualifications consisted of a PhD in xenobiology and An uncanny ability to make coffee that could wake the dead. This is going to end badly, I told Pip, who just chirped happily and tried to eat my hair. Behind us, Groknar was humming what sounded like a victory song. I was beginning to suspect that badly might be an understatement. 3 days later, I discovered that being a pack leader involves a lot more than I'd bargained for. Which is to say, it involves anything at all, and I'd bargained for nothing. Alpha Mother, Groknar said. Approaching me with what I'd learned was his "we have a situation" expression. Throk and Vex are fighting over hunting territory. I looked up from my morning coffee, which I'd been drinking in blessed solitude for exactly 37 seconds. Can't you handle it? You are pack leader now. Pack disputes are your responsibility. Right, I said, setting down my mug. And how exactly does one resolve hunting territory disputes? Usually with ritual combat, Groknar said helpfully. First to surrender or die. Let's try something different, I said quickly. Where are they? The something different turned out to be 2 8-foot alien warriors circling each other with weapons drawn while the rest of the pack formed a betting ring. Because apparently even advanced alien species enjoy a good fight. Okay, everyone calm down, I said, stepping between them. This was probably the stupidest thing I'd ever done, and I once tried to pet a wild boar because I thought it looked lonely. Both warriors immediately stopped and bowed their heads. The respect was flattering, but I was pretty sure they were just waiting for me to tell them who could kill whom. So I said, "What's the problem?" Grok, who was slightly larger and had a scar across his left eye, spoke first. The grove by the lightning stone is prime hunting ground. It has been my territory for 3 seasons. But my offspring are now old enough to hunt, Vex countered. I need territory to teach them. I looked at both of them, then at the assembled pack, then at the grove in question, which was about the size of a football field and apparently teeming with something that looked like purple deer. Here's a crazy idea, I said. What if you shared it? The silence was deafening. Shared? Throk repeated like I'd suggested they take up interpretive dance. You know, took turns. Throk hunts in the morning, Vex hunts in the afternoon. Or they could hunt together and split the results. More silence. I was beginning to think I'd committed some kind of cultural blasphemy. Then Groknar made a sound that took me a moment to recognize as laughter. The Alpha Mother is wise, he declared. Why fight when cooperation brings more success? Because fighting is fun? Vex suggested hopefully. You can fight other things, I pointed out. Save your energy for actual threats. And somehow it worked. Throk and Vex agreed to share the territory, the pack dispersed, and I went back to my coffee feeling like maybe this pack leader thing wasn't impossible. That lasted until the afternoon, when they brought me a marriage dispute. Alpha Mother, said Crix, a female warrior who could probably bench press a shuttle. Vorthak has chosen me as mate, but I have chosen Blag. And this is my problem because... You must decide who is worthier, Groknar explained. Traditional trial by combat, or you may choose a different test of worthiness. I looked at the 3 Vorthak in question. Vorthak was built like a tank and had arms that could crush steel. Blag was slightly smaller but had the kind of scars that suggested he'd survived fights with things that should have killed him. Crix looked like she could take both of them without breaking a sweat. Here's another crazy idea, I said. What if Crix chooses for herself? But how will we know who is stronger? Vorthak asked, genuinely confused. Maybe strength isn't everything, I suggested. Maybe she wants someone who's smart, or funny, or good at conversation. What is conversation good for? Blag asked. I spent the next hour explaining the concept of compatibility to a group of aliens who measured relationship potential by how well someone could fight off predators. It was like trying to explain calculus to a group of particularly violent golden retrievers. Eventually, I convinced them to let Crix spend time with both suitors in non-combat situations before making her decision. The pack seemed baffled but willing to try this new approach. You have strange ideas about strength, Groknar observed later, as we watched the pack's evening meal preparation. But they work. Mund. Human strength is different, I said. We don't always solve problems with violence. This is why you are a good pack leader, he said. You think of solutions we do not see. That night, Dr. Winters found me sitting outside the research station, staring up at the alien constellations. How are you adjusting to leadership? She asked, settling down beside me. I spent today teaching alien warriors about sharing and personal choice, I said. Yesterday I had to explain why eating competitors might be bad for long-term diplomatic relations. Tomorrow, Groknar wants me to lead them in something called the ritual of fierce howling. What's that? I have no idea, but I'm assuming it involves howling fiercely. Eliza laughed. You're doing better than you think. The pack respects you. They're actually changing their behavior based on your guidance. That's what scares me, I admitted. What happens when they realize I'm making it all up as I go along? Maya, Eliza said gently, what do you think leadership actually is? Before I could answer, a roar echoed through the night. Not a Vorthak roar, something else. Something that made my pack immediately go into defensive positions around the research station. Alpha Mother, Groknar called, his voice urgent. Rival pack approaches. They challenge your right to lead. I looked at Eliza, who had gone pale. So much for making it up as I go along, I said, standing up. Looks like I'm about to get my first real test. In the distance, more roars answered the first. A lot more roars. How many of them are there? I asked. More than us, Groknar replied grimly. But you are clever, strong, Alpha Mother. You will find a way. No pressure at all. The rival pack arrived at dawn, and they brought their entire extended family. Where my pack was 8 warriors strong, these guys showed up with at least 20. They were also bigger, scarier, and had the kind of weapons that suggested they'd been planning this for a while. Their leader stepped forward, and I immediately understood why my pack was nervous. This alien was built like a living tank, covered in ritual scars, and had eyes that suggested he'd never met a problem he couldn't solve with violence. I am Zarkoth the Bone Crusher, he announced, his voice carrying across the research station compound. I challenge the False Alpha for leadership of the Fallen Sky Clan. False Alpha? I said, genuinely offended. I saved their baby. That's got to count for something. You are weak meat thing, Zarkoth replied dismissively. No claws, no fangs, no strength. You shame the warrior way. Okay, first of all, rude, I said. Second of all, what's your problem with my leadership? I've been doing this for less than a week. The pack grows soft under your guidance, Zarkoth declared. Warriors share hunting grounds instead of fighting for them. They choose mates with talking instead of combat. You make them weak. I make them efficient, I corrected. Cooperation is more productive than constant internal conflict. Zarkoth made a sound like a garbage disposal eating rocks. I took that as disagreement. The challenge is given, he said formally. You will face me in ritual combat, or you will transfer pack leadership to the stronger warrior. What if I just walk away? I asked. Hypothetically speaking. Groknar stepped up beside me. Pack law is sacred, Alpha Mother. A challenged leader who flees is marked as coward. No pack will accept them. They become prey. So my options are fight the 8-foot murder machine or become a galaxy-wide laughingstock who gets eaten by every predator with a functioning nose. Yes, Groknar said simply. Great, I muttered. And I'm assuming this ritual combat is to the death? Or surrender, Zarkoth said with a grin that showed way too many teeth. Though I have never seen a surrendered challenger survive long. I looked at my pack, who were all staring at me with expressions of faith and confidence that I absolutely did not deserve. Pip was clinging to Groknar's leg, making worried chirping sounds. Can I have some time to prepare? I asked. Until tomorrow's dawn, Zarkoth agreed. Traditional preparation time. As the rival pack settled in to wait, I gathered my team for an emergency strategy session. Okay, I said, pacing back and forth in the research station's main lab. I need options that don't involve me being torn apart by an alien warlord. You could try to fight him, Jake suggested without much conviction. I once lost an arm wrestling match to a 12-year-old, I replied. Fighting is not in my skill set. The Vorthak do respect cunning, Eliza said thoughtfully. Their legends are full of clever warriors who defeated stronger opponents through wit rather than strength. Define cunning, I said. Well, there's the story of Kravok the Sly, who defeated a rival by tricking him into fighting a creature that was actually already dead. How is that helpful? It's not, Eliza admitted, but it shows they appreciate creative problem solving. I spent the rest of the day researching Vorthak law, looking for loopholes, technicalities, or any possible way to avoid becoming alien chow. The legal code was surprisingly comprehensive for a species that solved most problems with violence. That evening, Groknar found me still reading. You seek wisdom in the law words, he observed. I seek a way to not die horribly, I corrected. You will not die, Groknar said with confidence. You are Pack Mother. You protect us, we protect you. Groknar, I can't fight Zarkoth. I'm half his size and have zero combat training. You do not need to fight like Vorthak, he said. You fight like human. Human strong is different from Vorthak strong. What do you mean? You solve pack problems with thinking, not claws. You make us stronger by making us work together. This is your strength. An idea began to form in my mind. It was probably insane, definitely risky, and almost certainly going to get me killed. But it was the only plan I had. Groknar, I said slowly, what exactly are the rules for ritual combat? Combat is to surrender or death, he replied. No weapons except what the body provides. No assistance from pack members. But there's nothing that says the combat has to be physical, is there? Groknar's eyes brightened. You have plan. I have a plan, I confirmed, and it's either going to make me the most successful xenodiplomat in human history or the most creative failure. What do you need? I smiled for the first time since this whole mess started. I need to show Zarkoth exactly what human strength looks like. The next morning, as the twin suns rose over Kepler 442 billion, I walked out to meet my destiny. Which, knowing my luck, was probably going to be a very short and painful conversation. But maybe, just maybe, I could talk my way out of this one. After all, I was about to prove that the pen really is mightier than the sword. Even when the sword belongs to an 8-foot alien murder machine named Zarkoth the Bone Crusher. I accept your challenge, I announced to Zarkoth at dawn, standing in the circle both packs had formed. But I invoke the right of alternative combat. Zarkoth paused, his massive claws already extended. What is this alternative combat? Ancient Vorthak law, I said, hoping I'd gotten the translation right. Section 4, subsection 12 of the Warrior Code. A challenged leader may choose the nature of the combat, if they are significantly smaller than their challenger. I could see Zarkoth's pack muttering among themselves. Apparently they actually knew their own laws, which was both good and bad news. The law exists, one of them confirmed reluctantly. But what form of combat do you choose, weak meat? A battle of intelligence, I said. 3 challenges. If I win 2 out of 3, you acknowledge my leadership and leave. If you win, you get the pack. Zarkoth looked confused. Intelligence is not strength. Intelligence is the greatest strength, I replied. Any animal can be violent. Only the truly strong can think their way through problems. This is acceptable, Zarkoth said after a long pause. But the challenges must be worthy of warriors. Oh, they will be, I promised. The first challenge was a logic puzzle. I'd spent half the night preparing it, using my knowledge of Vorthak psychology and their pack hunting strategies. 5 warriors must cross a bridge, I began. The bridge can only hold 2 at a time. They have one light source that must be carried across. Warrior A takes 1 minute to cross, Warrior B takes 2 minutes, Warrior C takes 5 minutes, Warrior D takes 10 minutes, and Warrior E takes 20 minutes. When 2 cross together, they must move at the speed of the slower warrior. How do you get all 5 across in the shortest time? Zarkoth stared at me. What is the point of this? The point is strategy, I said. A good leader must be able to plan efficiently. Show me how you would move your pack. For the next 20 minutes, I watched Zarkoth struggle with the concept of optimization. He kept trying solutions that took over 40 minutes, growing more frustrated with each attempt. The answer is 29 minutes, I said finally. A and B cross together in 2 minutes. A returns in 1 minute. D and E cross together in 20 minutes. AB returns in 2 minutes. A and B cross again in 2 minutes. Total, 29 minutes. This is not real combat, Zarkoth protested. This is exactly real combat, I replied. Every hunting party, every defensive formation, every resource allocation requires this kind of thinking. A leader who cannot plan efficiently will lead their pack to starvation. My pack was making approving rumbles. Even some of Zarkoth's warriors looked impressed. Challenge 2, I announced. This one was a resource management scenario. I presented them with a theoretical situation where 2 packs had to survive a harsh winter with limited food stores, and they could either fight each other for resources or find a way to cooperate. Zarkoth's solution was predictable: eliminate the weaker pack and take their resources. And what happens when an even stronger pack arrives? I asked. Now you're weakened from fighting, and you have no allies. I outlined my solution: temporary cooperation, shared hunting grounds, and a mutual defense pact. Both packs survived the winter stronger than they started. Cooperation is weakness, Zarkoth insisted. Cooperation is multiplication of strength, I countered. 1 + 1 = 3 when you work together effectively. Mathematics is not fighting, Zarkoth growled. Mathematics is everything, I replied. Numbers don't lie. Strength multiplied by strategy equals victory. Strategy alone can defeat superior strength. The third challenge was the most important one. I needed to prove that intelligence could triumph over brute force in a way that resonated with Vorthak values. Final challenge, I said. A practical test. Your pack and mine will compete in a hunting simulation. The goal is to capture the most prey in the shortest time with the fewest casualties. I'd set up the simulation using the research station's holographic training system. The prey were digital representations of the local wildlife, and casualties were scored based on tactical mistakes. Zarkoth led his pack in a traditional charge formation. It was impressive, brutal, and effective. They captured 15 prey animals in 12 minutes, with 3 simulated casualties from their aggressive approach. Then it was my turn. Groknar, take Throk and Vex around the left flank, I directed. Krix, you and Blag create a distraction on the right. Draw the herd toward the center. Everyone else wait for my signal. Instead of charging, we used coordination. The flanking teams herded the prey exactly where we wanted them. The distraction team controlled their movement, and when I gave the signal, the entire pack moved in perfect synchronization. Result: 23 prey animals captured in 8 minutes, 0 casualties. The clearing was silent except for the sound of alien breathing. This is victory through intelligence, I said to Zarkoth. Your way is strong but limited. My way multiplies the strength of every warrior in the pack. Zarkoth stared at the holographic display showing our results. His pack was murmuring among themselves, and I could see the doubt in their eyes. You did not fight, he said finally. I did fight, I replied. I fought with my mind instead of my claws, and I won. This is not the warrior way. This is the survivor way, I said. And isn't survival what being a warrior is really about? For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, slowly, Zarkoth knelt. "I acknowledge your strength, clever Alpha," he said. "You have defeated me without violence. This is impressive." "Does this mean you're leaving?" I asked hopefully. "No," Zarkoth said, and my heart sank. "This means I request to join your pack. A leader who can multiply warrior strength without bloodshed is a leader worth following." I stared at him. "You want to join my pack? If you will have us." I looked around at the assembled aliens. My original pack of 8, plus Zarkoth's 20 warriors, all looking at me expectantly. "So instead of having 8 alien warriors to manage," I said slowly, "I now have 28? "Yes," Groknar said happily. "You are a very successful pack leader, Alpha Mother." I sat down heavily on a nearby rock. I'm going to need a lot more coffee. 6 months later, I was sitting in my newly expanded office reviewing the latest requests for my wisdom. The stack included 3 marriage disputes, 2 territory negotiations, a custody battle over someone's pet that looked like a cross between a bear and a food processor, and a formal request to settle a philosophical argument about whether honor was more important than efficiency. "Alpha Mother," Groknar said, entering with his usual reverence, "the Council of Neighboring Packs requests your presence at the seasonal gathering." "How many packs is that now?" I asked, not looking up from my paperwork. 17 have requested to join the Great Alliance, he replied proudly. "Word of your leadership spreads across the continent." "Fantastic," I muttered. "What's the seasonal gathering about?" "They wish to formally acknowledge you as the first Alpha of the United Clans." I put down my stylus and stared at him. "The what now?" "It is a great honor," Groknar assured me. "No leader in Vorthak history has united so many packs peacefully." "Because no leader in Vorthak history was insane enough to try," I replied. "What exactly does being first Alpha involve?" "Final authority over all territorial disputes, resource allocation, and inter-pack relations for the entire region. So basically, I'd become the alien queen of half a continent." "Yes," Groknar beamed. "Is this not wonderful?" I looked out my window at the research station that had somehow transformed into the de facto capital of a multi-pack alien civilization. The Vorthak had built additional structures around the original buildings, creating a sprawling compound that housed nearly 200 warriors and their families. Dr. Winters had been in anthropological heaven for months, documenting the first peaceful unification in recorded Vorthak history. Commander Sterling had been promoted twice for innovative diplomatic solutions, which basically meant his superiors were as confused as he was about how this had happened. And me? I'd accidentally become the most successful xenodiplomat in human history by trying to avoid being eaten. "There's something I need to tell you, Groknar," I said. "I never actually wanted to be a pack leader." "We know this," he replied calmly. "I made up most of my solutions as I went along." "We know this too." "I was terrified most of the time and had no idea what I was doing." "Yes," Groknar agreed. "This is why you are a good leader." I blinked. "Come again?" "Leaders who want power take it for themselves," he explained. "Leaders who fear power use it carefully. You never make decisions for your own benefit. You always think of what is best for the pack." "But I don't even like being in charge of things." "This is also why you are a good leader," Groknar said with alien logic that was starting to make sense. "You do not enjoy commanding others, so you do not command unless necessary. You seek solutions that make everyone stronger, not solutions that make you feel important." I sat back in my chair, processing this. "So you're saying I'm a good leader because I don't want to be a leader?" "Yes." "And you've known all along that I was making it up as I went?" "Yes." "And you still want me to become first Alpha of the United Clans?" "Yes." "No, Maria." I looked at the stack of requests on my desk, then at Groknar's hopeful expression, then out at the compound full of alien warriors who had somehow decided that a sarcastic xenobiologist was the best thing that had ever happened to them. Can I negotiate the terms? I asked. You are Alpha, Groknar said. You can do anything. Right, I said, standing up. Here's what's going to happen. I'll accept the position of First Alpha. But I'm doing this my way. I keep my research duties. I keep my coffee breaks. And I'm instituting a formal council system so I don't have to personally resolve every dispute between pack members who can't agree on the proper way to sharpen their claws. This is acceptable, Groknar said immediately. I'm also requiring that all pack leaders learn basic conflict resolution skills so they can handle the simple stuff themselves. Also acceptable. And I want a vacation policy. Even alien queens need time off. What is vacation? Something I'm going to teach you about, I said with a grin. Along with the concept of delegation, the importance of work-life balance, and why effective leadership is about building systems, not micromanaging every decision. As I walked out to address the assembled representatives of 17 alien warrior clans, I reflected on the absurdity of my situation. I'd come to Kepler 442 billion to study harmless local fauna, and ended up accidentally founding the first peaceful interspecies alliance in galactic history. The diplomatic corps was probably going to study my methods for decades. Universities would offer courses on the Rodriguez approach to xenodiplomatic relations. I'd probably get a medal, a promotion, and more speaking engagements than I could handle. All because I'd been too stubborn to let a baby alien drown in a methane swamp. Alpha Mother called out Zarkoth, who had become my most reliable enforcer despite being twice my size and 3 times as scary. Are you ready to address the United Clans? I looked out at the gathered crowd of alien warriors, all of them looking at me with expressions of respect and trust that I still wasn't sure I deserved. You know what? I said, straightening my shoulders. I think I am. After all, I'd already proven that the universe's most reluctant leader could accidentally become its most effective one. And if I could turn a pack of warrior aliens into a functional diplomatic alliance, I could probably handle being their queen. Even if I was still making it up as I went along. Some things apparently never change. But at least now I had really good coffee and 28 different species of alien wildlife to study in my spare time. Plus, I'd discovered that being an accidental alien queen came with surprisingly good benefits, including a personal guard of warriors who thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and the unique distinction of being the only human in history to unite alien clans through a combination of stubbornness, caffeine addiction, and sheer dumb luck. As I stepped up to the podium that Groknar had hastily constructed from what appeared to be salvaged spaceship parts, I couldn't help but smile. Fellow Vorthak, I began, my voice carrying across the assembled crowd, I accept the position of First Alpha of the United Clans. But I want to make one thing perfectly clear. The crowd fell silent, hanging on my every word. We're going to do this my way, which means we're going to do it smart, we're going to do it fair, and we're going to make sure everyone gets their coffee breaks. The confused murmuring that followed was probably the sound of an entire alien civilization trying to figure out what coffee was. I grinned. This was going to be interesting. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I made a mental note to send a very long, very detailed report back to Earth. They were never going to believe this. But then again, I was still having trouble believing it myself. Who would have thought that the key to successful interspecies diplomacy was simply refusing to let anyone get eaten on your watch and making sure everyone had access to decent beverages? Apparently, the universe had a sense of humor after all.